talking to the young Peter Tanchi Jr., what advice would you give him?
If I would give advice to the young Peter Tanchi Jr., I would just tell him, I would show him a video of my life. Because I don't think he would listen to me otherwise. Because I don't think an addicted person can think clearly. But I would play a video of the future and show him all the years wasted and all the people that he could have invested in that he didn't. And then ask him, is it worth paying all that time doing something in a digital world that will never last, to give up all these things that are real and that can be a blessing to people, to your family, to the God you love? And I would really challenge the young Peter to think about it. The problem is I know what the young Peter thought, and he might not listen because until he takes a break, the game has a hold on him back then, right? So.
For all the parents watching us now whose kids are deeply into online gaming, how should they handle them?
First, online gaming is not evil. I need parents to understand how you approach the gaming is very important, because if we just say to all kids, you can never play games because they're bad, that will lead to rebellion, because the fact is the games are here to stay, right? It's an entire industry. All their friends game already. So there's a thing I like to say. It's rules without a relationship lead to rebellion. Discipline without a relationship leads to anger. So my challenge to parents is you have to invest in a relationship so that you can speak into your children and open their eyes to truth. I feel like this can be handled two ways. If your children are very young, because you're the parent and they still obey you, set the rules. Have rules on screen time. Do not let them develop an addiction at a young age. Show them the world has so much to offer. Art, music, teach them how to play an instrument, teach them photography. But all of this means that daddy and mommy have to spend time with their children. And that's the challenge today. We're all so busy. And that's why this COVID, even though it's been a very hard time for a lot of us, I've heard it has been a blessing for parents that have used it right. These are parents that have decided to spend time with their children. And because they're home, they spend more time actually involved in their lives. So when children are young, my advice to the parents is get involved and put a stop to all the technology and teach them how to balance it. So we have rules for our children. All day, we tell them no screens because we want them to play, to learn how to build, to use gadgets for creation. So I allow them to code on their iPad. They can use it to code. Coding is a great skill. I allow my kids to do art on their iPad. I allow them to record videos and edit them. I'm just kind of careful about all the social media videos which are being passed around. That's a whole nother topic, but that can be very addictive too. But still, to use technology, to use the gadgets to create, so that you are giving them an alternative to just sitting at home using a phone. Because nature abhors a vacuum. You've heard that. So if they are addicted to a game and you just take away the phone, what are they going to do? They're going to cry. And they have nothing to do. You don't have an alternative for them. So give them an alternative. That's for younger children, that you can still discipline and take, you can still parent them that way. But when the children are older, it's a little harder because they can rebel. They can threaten with, I'm going to run away. I don't know, right? When they get mad.
They're no longer in their formative years, so it would be harder for the parents to penetrate them.
Yes. So when they're older, you have to then have conversations and ask them what's happening. And maybe you can open their eyes by challenging them to create their own rules and say, okay, an example. what is a healthy amount of gaming for you, where you will still develop your other skills? Now, if they're addicted, they won't want to have that conversation, right? They'll want to just keep playing. So that's where the challenge comes in. And, learning how to parent them, building that relationship. Maybe right now you can't go on a vacation, but maybe you can say, let's take a 1 week detox as a family. And we're going to play board games at night, and we will sing songs. And I don't know what you can do, right?
Great idea.
Yeah, but if you're stuck in the home, what do you do? This is where I challenge parents. You're gonna have to be creative. Go online, look for resources, and look for help, right? Like I said, from a local church or something like that, but from a community. And it is a challenge, but you have to penetrate your older kids, win their heart, let them know you care for them, and you're not stopping them because you're trying to stop them from having fun, but you wanna protect them for the rest of their life. And you're not telling them never game. I want gamers who are watching this to understand, if you can control the gaming, you can enjoy it, but be honest with yourself. Don't trick yourself. Don't tell yourself I can control it. And then when you lie down, before you know it, it's 2 a.m. That's not control, right?
They feel powerful while they're playing, but then they start to lose sight of the fact that no, actually they don't have control over their life.
They don't, because exactly, like for example, we're supposed to sleep 8 hours a night, right? That's healthy. Do you know, if you don't sleep a lot, the effects are not seen. You won't see it tomorrow, but if you don't sleep a lot for the next 3 years, it increases the rate of cancer, it increases the rate of depression. So if you can communicate that to your children and tell them, look, we have to have rules. If you have to wake up at 7 or 6 o'clock to go to school, what time do you need to be in bed by? 10 o'clock. So let's have a rule. No gaming after 10 for your sake. So these are some things you can develop. And then another rule is no gaming until you finish your work. If children can do this, then they can game, right?
For gamers, do you have a parting message for them?
I do. To my fellow gamers, and I really have a burden for all of you, because I remember when I realized I was addicted, I felt this great sorrow that I had wasted so many years of my life. I joke with my brother. He is actually younger than me by 4 years, but I call him Kuya. My brother never got into gaming. My brother matured beyond my years in maturity. Up to today, he is actually more mature than me as a person, but we have a great relationship. I don't feel any regret, except that I wish I had not wasted so many years. So if I could leave a word to gamers, it's this. There is something called the game of life, and it is a far grander and more meaningful game than any game you'll ever play. And it is this life we live. And God has given you talents and gifts. And if you would let him use you, he wants you to do great things in this world. If you're not careful, you will waste all that energy in a world that doesn't really exist. And that's just the truth. And that's the challenge with addiction to gaming. Not all of you who are listening to me are addicted to games. I'm not telling everyone you can never play, but you know who you are. If you are the kind of person that even if you know you're addicted, if you start playing, you get lost again, then maybe for you, it's a price worth paying never to play again. But if you can control it, don't forget that every hour you spend gaming is an hour you spend less in the real world, being a blessing to people around you, developing yourself and growing. So don't forget that. So my encouragement to gamers is, yes, you can game responsibly, but make sure you really game in the real world, which is this great game of life we live in, and make a difference. And don't let the games take that energy away from you. And so you don't, you waste it to a sense like I did before. Oh, and my last encouragement is this: it's never too late to correct. It's only too late if you never want to change. So if any of you are listening to this and you're like, you know what, I do game too much, try to take a detox period, maybe 2 weeks to start, and then revisit and see what it does to your brain. And you'll find out there's so many fun things to do in the world. that are more meaningful. An example, my fellow gamers, is a lot of us, we like to rescue in the game, right? We want to, in the game, there are missions to rescue a princess in a dungeon. When you know what? There's a princess in the real world for you to rescue. In my case, it's my wife, you know? And so I want to remind you guys, for everything there is in a game, there's a better version of it in life.
I'm deeply moved, Peter. Thank you very much for sharing with us once again your inspiring story, for sharing your time with us today. It was really a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. It was an honor and a privilege as well.
Wow! We had one truly inspiring and engaging conversation with Peter. Hindi po natin namamalayan na consume na pala natin the entire time for this episode, but it was all worth it.
Okay lang yan, partner. We enjoyed your conversation with Peter, and we picked up a lot of lessons for both parents and all online gamers.
We shall continue our discussion on online gaming next episode. Samahan niyo po kami sa susunod na linggo.
Sa continuation ng ating episode today, Play or Pray,
let's continue the fight for a safer cyberspace for our children and the youth. Be a cyber guardian.